I'm 24 and recently ended a nearly year-long relationship with my ex, who's 27. We broke up about 2 months ago, and for good reason. I caught him cheating on me with one of my own friends. I had gone over to his place unannounced that morning, thinking I'd surprise him for our first anniversary with some cupcakes. But when I got there, I noticed the door was already unlocked, which was odd. I walked in and found him in bed, cuddled up with my friend like it was the most normal thing in the world. That was all I needed to see. I didn't give him a second to explain or apologize. I ended things right then and there and completely cut him off. He tried to reach out afterward using different accounts, but I didn't even bother reading his messages. I just blocked every new one he made. After about 2 weeks of trying, he finally gave up, and we haven't spoken since. The real complication, though, came from my mom. She's 46, and unfortunately, she was extremely fond of my ex. She didn't take the breakup well at all. I think part of it is tied to her own past. My dad cheated on her too and left while she was still pregnant with me. That's just my theory, but it makes some sense. When I broke the news to her that I dumped my ex for cheating, she tried to comfort me by saying stuff like we were soulmates and that we'd somehow find our way back to each other. She genuinely believed that. I remember thinking how weird it was to hear that from someone trying to console me, especially when I wanted absolutely nothing to do with the guy ever again. I broke up with him for a reason, a very clear one, and that kind of betrayal doesn't just disappear with time. Even if you try to patch things up, the trust never fully comes back. And what kind of relationship can you have without trust? There's just no point in revisiting something so broken. But my mom clearly didn't agree. She kept insisting we were meant to be like this was some kind of movie plot. Eventually, I got so fed up with her pushing that idea that I snapped and told her I'd rather stay single for the rest of my life than go crawling back to someone who disrespected me like that. That shut her up pretty quickly. She didn't bring him up again after that, and the last time she even mentioned his name was close to a month ago. Fast forward to a few days ago, my birthday was coming up, and I decided to take my family and some friends out for dinner and drinks to celebrate. I'd been swamped with work lately and hadn't had much time to see anyone, so I was really looking forward to it. I got all dressed up and headed to the restaurant, feeling good for the first time in a while. A few of my friends were already there when I arrived, and we were just waiting on my mom, my aunt, and my cousins to show up. My aunt and cousins got there a few minutes after me, but my mom was still missing. When I asked where she was, my aunt said she had some errands and would be running late. She told us to go ahead and start without her. That honestly stung a bit. It was my birthday, and my own mom couldn't even bother to be on time? She knows how much punctuality means to me, especially on important days. It felt like she was brushing off something that mattered to me. Still, I tried not to let it ruin the evening. We ordered food and started chatting. About half an hour later, my mom finally walked in, all smiles, dressed to the nines with full makeup on. That was unusual. My mom almost never wears makeup unless it's a really big deal. She looked more like it was her birthday than mine. But she's my mom, and I didn't want to make a scene, so I gave her a hug, and she kissed me on both cheeks, saying she had a special gift for me. I looked around, confused. She didn't have any bags, just a tiny purse that couldn't possibly hold much more than a lipstick and a card or two. So I asked her what the gift was, and instead of answering, she pulled out her phone, made a call, and told whoever she was talking to that they could come in now. I'm guessing you can already see where this is going. Yup, my ex strolled into the restaurant in a tuxedo like he was about to propose or something. I hadn't seen him since the breakup, and now here he was, looking smug and polished as ever, grinning at me like nothing had happened. I couldn't even speak. I was still in shock, trying to process it, when my mom blurted out, "Surprise! Do you like your gift?" She stood there with this big grin on her face, waiting for my reaction, while everyone else at the table just stared in disbelief. And then my ex had the nerve to say something at me like I owed him a reaction. That snapped me right out of it. I let my mom have it. I told her straight up that she hadn't just ruined my birthday, she'd failed me as a mother. I said if she actually knew me at all, she'd have realized how much this would hurt me. I told her that if she was so obsessed with my ex, maybe she should just go ahead and date him herself. After all, based on how dolled up she looked, it seemed like that's exactly what she wanted. Her face dropped, and tears welled up in her eyes immediately. As soon as I finished, she broke down and stormed out of the restaurant. My ex stood there for a few seconds, looking completely awkward, then followed after her. The mood was totally wrecked. None of us felt like celebrating anymore. My aunt had brought a cake, but I didn't even cut it. She handed it to me to take home, and it's still sitting in my fridge untouched. We wrapped up dinner as quickly as possible, and everyone left in a hurry. Honestly, I don't blame them. The whole night had turned into a train wreck. I went home feeling drained and bitter. I'd really wanted this day to be special, and instead it turned out to be one of the worst birthdays I've ever had. I hadn't heard from anyone for a while after that until about half an hour ago when my aunt called. She said my mom still hadn't come home and wasn't answering any calls or messages. So I figured I should try reaching out, even if just out of obligation. She picked up, but her voice was cold and distant. She told me she was on the roof of her old apartment, the one she used to live in after I was born and before my dad left. She said to tell my aunt not to worry, that she'd be home in an hour, and then hung up without even saying goodbye. She only ever goes up there when she's really hurting. She told me that once years ago. So whatever happened tonight must have cut her deep. My mom's usually incredibly forgiving, but the way she spoke to me on the phone didn't sound like her at all. It felt hollow. Like I'd pushed her too far. And maybe I did cross a line with that comment about her wanting my ex for herself. But at the same time, how could she think it was okay to invite the guy who cheated on me to my birthday dinner without even asking how I'd feel about it? I've made it crystal clear to her more than once that I have zero interest in ever getting back together with him. And honestly, if she still can't understand why I was so upset, that's not on me. I don't feel bad at all for telling my mom that if she wanted my ex so badly, she could just take him. She had the nerve to show up at my birthday dinner with him, without even bothering to ask me first. That crossed a serious line. Update 1: A lot of people have been asking about my dad and what kind of relationship I have with him, so I guess it makes sense to explain even though I didn't think it was really relevant at first. So, my mom met my dad back in college. They dated on and off for a couple of years, but from what I know, he was never truly serious about her. She, on the other hand, was all in. She'd cry every time she caught him talking to another girl, even casually. Eventually, after they graduated, they gave things a real shot and moved in together. A few months later, my mom found out she was pregnant. It wasn't planned, and my dad didn't take it well. He made it clear he wasn't ready for a kid, not emotionally and definitely not financially. But my mom was firm about keeping the baby. She told him he could walk away if that's what he wanted. I guess he didn't leave right away because his parents knew about the pregnancy too, and they pressured him to stay. But then, when she was about 6 months along, she caught him getting a little too cozy with one of his co-workers at a nearby restaurant. He had always denied anything was going on with that woman, but clearly, that was a lie. That was the final straw. He walked out of her life before I was even born and legally gave up his parental rights. So no, I don't have any sort of relationship with him. I've never even seen his face. My mom made sure to erase every trace of him from her life. No photos. No mementos. Nothing. I didn't even know his name for the longest time. Everything I know about him came from my aunt, and only because I pressured her to tell me the truth when I turned 18. I always found it weird that my mom told me he died before I was born, but if he had, wouldn't she have wanted to remember him, not pretend like he never existed? My mom always acted strange and emotional whenever I brought him up, which only made me more suspicious. Eventually, my aunt broke down and told me what really happened. Out of respect for my mom, I stopped bringing him up after that. Honestly, she should have shown me the same respect when I made it clear multiple times that I was done with my ex and wanted nothing to do with him. A few years after I was born, my mom moved in with her sister, my aunt, who had just lost her husband in an accident. It helped my aunt out, and it saved my mom a ton on rent. So for most of my life, my family has been the three of them: my mom, my aunt, and my cousins. It's always been us. Now, it's been a full day since the birthday disaster, and I still haven't spoken to my mother. My aunt did mention that she got home really late last night, but I have no idea what she was doing. I don't feel inclined to apologize either. What she did was completely out of line, unnecessary, and honestly a little cruel. Update 2: So, my ex just texted me. Again. This time it was from yet another new number. I guess he wanted to explain everything. He told me that my mom reached out to him about a week ago right after I invited her to my birthday dinner. She told him she was planning a surprise for me. According to him, she said she knew I still had feelings for him, even if I didn't admit it, and that deep down I wanted to get back together. So she took it upon herself to play matchmaker. Apparently, it took a little convincing, but she finally talked him into showing up a few days before my birthday. He agreed, thinking he could apologize and maybe win me back. They were running late that night because they had stopped to pick up a birthday cake together. He also said that the whole show up in a tux thing? Yeah, that was my mom's idea. She told him I'd melt if I saw him all dressed up and that I'd come running back if he just made the gesture. Like, seriously? That might have worked if we'd broken up over something stupid. But the guy literally cheated on me. With my friend. There's no tux in the world that would make that okay. And just when I thought it couldn't get worse, it did. My ex went on to say that after my mom stormed out of the restaurant, she asked him to drive her home since they'd come together. But halfway there, she changed her mind and asked him to take her to a different place, her old apartment. Then, she invited him to go up with her. He said he felt sorry for her, so he went. And they ended up talking for hours. All night, actually. So yeah. My mom and my ex are friends now. I feel sick just writing that. Like, what the hell is even happening? This guy betrayed me in one of the worst ways possible, and somehow she's having rooftop therapy sessions with him like nothing's wrong? She knows what it feels like to be cheated on. And still, she chose to bond with the one person who did that to her own daughter. It's beyond disgusting. And honestly, with the way she's been acting lately, I wouldn't be surprised if she actually is trying to keep him for herself. I hate even thinking that, but I don't know what else to believe anymore. My ex probably thinks this whole situation is just a sweet reunion story. But he doesn't know my mom's history. And clearly, he doesn't realize how messed up this all looks from my end. What really blew my mind, though, was the end of his text. He actually told me that what I said to my mom at the restaurant was out of line. That I should apologize to her. He said she's been through so much as a single mom and that I should treat her with more respect instead of humiliating her in front of people. He even had the nerve to give me suggestions on how I could apologize to her. Like, is this dude for real? Who the hell does he think he is, lecturing me about respect and morals? This man was hooking up with my friend behind my back. He's the absolute last person who should be talking to me about doing the right thing. I just sat there staring at my phone like, no way he really sent this. No way he typed all that out and thought it was a good idea. What exactly did he think would happen? That I'd suddenly have a change of heart and go hug my mom and thank her for dragging the guy who cheated on me into my birthday party? Yeah. Not happening. Not in this lifetime. And about my mom's struggles as a single parent? Look, I get that raising a kid alone isn't easy emotionally. But she wasn't exactly suffering. My mom and my aunt both work in the same field and do pretty well for themselves. We had full-time nannies growing up. We weren't neglected or hungry or scraping by. They had plenty of support. So I really don't know what kind of hardship my ex is talking about when he brings up how hard her life was. Maybe she struggled emotionally. I can't speak to that. But if we're just talking day-to-day life and responsibilities, she wasn't doing it alone and certainly not under dire conditions. Honestly, if my ex hadn't texted me and spilled all of that, I might have considered apologizing to my mom eventually. Maybe. But after what I found out? Yeah, not a chance. I don't feel the slightest bit bad about what I said at the restaurant anymore. In fact, it's becoming clearer that I was right to say it. She spent the entire night with my ex, talking to him, bonding with him, so I guess my insult wasn't all that far-fetched after all. The more I think about it, the more sick to my stomach I feel. I still can't wrap my head around the fact that my own mother could do something like this. Update 3 is so today I talked to my aunt, and things just keep getting more bizarre. She came over to check in on me since I hadn't spoken to my mom in almost a week. But I could tell right away that something was bothering her. She was acting nervous and jumpy, clearly holding something back. After a little pushing, she finally opened up and told me what was really going on. And let me tell you, it completely flipped my world upside down. She told me there's a lot more going on between my mom and my ex than what anyone would assume from the outside. She'd been keeping it to herself because she didn't want to put crazy ideas in my head, but now she said it didn't feel right to hide it anymore. Apparently, my mom told her all about the night she spent on the rooftop with my ex, and it somehow ties back to my dad. At first, I was totally confused. But then my aunt pulled out a small stack of old photos from her purse and handed them to me, and my jaw dropped. My ex looks exactly like my dad. I'm not exaggerating. The resemblance is freakishly strong. For a second, I actually thought I was looking at recent pictures of my ex until I realized they were decades old. Same face shape, same intense eyes, same long nose. The only real difference is that my dad had black hair and my ex's is a lighter brown. But otherwise? Practically clones. I couldn't say a word. I just sat there staring at the pictures while my aunt explained that the first time I ever brought my ex over, both she and my mom noticed the resemblance immediately. And apparently, they talked about it at length after I left that night. My mom, according to my aunt, actually seemed excited. Happy, even. Which struck my aunt as odd at the time, but she didn't want to make it a big deal. Now she's convinced that my mom's attachment to my ex has gone way beyond what's normal. She even used the word obsession. And, honestly, I agree. It's like my mom is emotionally replacing the man who abandoned her with the guy who cheated on me. I don't even know if my ex knows any of this. I'm guessing not. I haven't responded to his texts and I don't plan to. At this point, nothing he says would matter anyway. And now I don't even know how to feel about my mom anymore. I used to believe that she was the one person I could always rely on. I love my aunt dearly, but she's not my mom. And now, realizing that my mother has been hiding all this, trying to recreate her past through my ex, it's just deeply unsettling. I'm still angry with her, don't get me wrong. But more than that, I'm concerned. Because this whole thing? It's not just a betrayal. It's disturbing. Going after your own daughter's cheating ex just because he reminds you of the man who cheated on you, that's not normal. That's someone who desperately needs help. It's clear now that my mom never really moved on from my father leaving. She just buried it and pretended she was okay. But this situation proves she's not. And honestly, I think she needs to speak to a therapist. Update 4. Hey everyone, it's been a few weeks since that last update, and a lot has happened. So buckle up. Right after my aunt told me everything, I told her we had to confront my mom. She was hesitant at first, didn't want to make things worse, but I told her point blank, if we don't step in now, she might actually become the woman who runs off with her daughter's ex. That possibility freaked my aunt out enough to finally agree. So we confronted her. And, wow. At first, she got super defensive, tried to deny everything, said we were being dramatic. But eventually, the dam broke. She completely melted down and confessed to everything. She admitted that she'd been trying to get closer to my ex because she felt like, through him, she had another shot with my dad. I can't lie, it broke my heart to hear that. It was the most honest and vulnerable I've seen her in years. She was a mess. Crying. Apologizing. Spiraling. We told her she needed to cut off contact with him immediately, and right then and there, we made her block him on everything. Turns out she'd still been talking to him even after everything that happened at my birthday. I told her she needed professional help, and she finally agreed. She's already started seeing a therapist, which I hope helps her begin to heal from everything she's been suppressing for decades. As for my ex, I decided to be completely transparent with him. I told him the truth about my mom's past and why she'd suddenly latched onto him so hard. Unsurprisingly, he had no idea. He seemed pretty shocked when I explained everything. The only reason I even bothered telling him was to make sure he wouldn't try to get in touch with either of us again. And I guess it worked. I haven't heard from him since, and hopefully, I never will.